Welcome to WITS, What It Takes to Succeed show. I'm your host, Igor Zdorovyak. By trade, I'm a technical business transformation project program portfolio manager with expertise in PMI, Scrum Agile, Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, ITIL, and other methodologies, as well as IT techniques and financial practices. For many years, I've been writing about what it takes to succeed, interviewing leaders and experts in their fields. Now I'm bringing it to the masses, as Tim Ferriss would say, on a new platform. Today I welcome Terry Schmidt to the program. Terry is the president of Management Pro, a Seattle-based consulting and training company, and a recognized expert in strategic planning and project management. He has helped over 25,000 people in industries of all types in 42 countries to solve business problems through an innovative approach to project management. Terry brings practical tools for leaders and teams in his Strategic Project Management Made Simple book, right here. Now, Terry's book has reached such a big accolades as the best project management book for project management with the companies like Peter Drucker's The Effective Executive, The Definitive Guide to Getting the Things Right Done. I really got to know Terry by reading his book, Strategic Project Management Made Simple. Welcome, Terry.
Thank you, Igor. I love what you're doing by bringing practical project management tools and techniques to a wider audience. I'm proud to be on your show.
Thank you. Now, can you tell us why you wrote this book?
Well, I wrote this book to give project managers an exceptional tool to achieve better results. As you may know, about 70% of all projects fail, according to Standish Groups and Gartner Groups. Part of the reason is that the problems and goals that we take on are so complex, we need to move beyond the traditional project management methodologies and be more strategic in how we think, plan, and act. So the title of my book is deliberately Strategic Project Management, which means linking with the bigger picture and starting there and deriving a project from a larger thinking space.
Well, that's great. Now, and what is your background, educational background?
Well, I started out as a aerospace engineer, spent a little bit of time with NASA where I learned project management. Then I went on to get an MBA from Harvard and joined the Secretary of Transportation in Washington, D.C. as a strategic planner. And after a few years, I got sick of government and left and became involved in third world management consulting, specifically project design on the behalf of USAID, the Foreign Aid Program, and the World Bank. And that took me to dozens of developing countries in Asia, Africa, Latin America, and the Middle East. And that's when I truly learned how to design projects from a strategic and systems thinking perspective.
Well, I'm sure, like with all the disasters in Puerto Rico, Mexico, as well as our California and Florida, I think like everybody should get this book right here and go through the process. It will help them a lot.
Well, I think actually they should get 3 copies, one for themselves, one for any anniversaries or birthdays that come along, and then one for some very special loved one in your life. It'll make a unique statement. It's a gift they will probably never get from anyone else in the world.
Oh, definitely. I agree. Now, your book describes a process tool called the logical framework approach. I like the logical framework because as a project manager and project owner, I just love the simplicity of the design that I can actually make with it. Now my question is, can you tell us a little bit more about the logical framework approach and how you got involved?
Sure. The logical framework approach was first developed for USAID after a request by Congress to show what kind of results the hundreds of projects in developing countries were achieving. A lot of these projects are aimed at improving the quality of life for the rural poor, reducing poverty, increasing food production, increasing educational standards. Not the typical project that you can manage using bar charts and conventional project management techniques, because they don't help you to measure the impact. You want to start with the goal in mind and work back down. So the logical framework was developed. I was recruited to teach it worldwide, and I learned what a powerful tool it is for transformational type projects, the type of projects you're engaged in. Then I wrote this book, Strategic Project Management Made Simple, to reach a wider audience of technologists, IT managers, project managers, business leaders of all types, because it gave them more potent tools to attack the complex projects that they're engaged in.
Oh, definitely, I would recommend this book, and it's the #1 book on my desk sitting down.
You're a smart man, I'll tell you what. You're a smart man to have that book on your desk.
Now, what are some of the ways that project leaders can use the logical framework?
Well, the most important thing is to use it at what's called a fuzzy front end. When goals are still vague, when you're putting together the set of deliverables, when you really need to use creative, critical thinking of the type that's not found in the PMBOK. So it can help you to establish what I call a hierarchy of objectives or a strategic hypothesis, recognizing that every project has multiple levels. And in typical project management, we don't think too far beyond the deliverable level. But there's actually 2 levels above that, which I'll talk about later. And it's critical that we understand those levels so we can design a project that really delivers results. Yeah,
I totally agree. Now, can you describe some of the projects you have been involved that use this approach?
Well, I've been involved in guiding thousands of projects in high-tech, low-tech, and no-tech environments. Everyone from the U.S. Department of Energy that has used it to help interrupt ISIS activities in certain nations, to keeping WMDs out of the ports of entry, to nonprofit organizations such as women's shelters for battered women in terms of how they can be more effective. But most of my clients are actually IT organizations in companies like Symantec and Activision Blizzard, Timex, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, technology companies like that.
Oh, that's great. Now, there are a lot of project planning approaches. So what advantages does your process have over other planning approaches?
Well, I think the secret sauce of my approach is a very, very simple concept which we intuitively understand but don't often use, and that is causal thinking. Now, if you saw the movie Field of Dreams, there's a classic line from Field of Dreams. I'm sure a lot of your viewers are thinking of it right now, and that says, if we build it, they will come. That's an example of a strategic hypothesis, a presumed relationship between what we can make happen, that is building a baseball field, and what we want to happen, that is they will come. So you can construct what I call logical hierarchies of objectives, leading from activities all the way up to strategic impact. And by doing so, we can connect the best strategies with projects that really work and deliver. Now, I take exception to those project managers who say the purpose of a project is to provide the deliverables on time and within budget. Well, no, I think that the real purpose of a project is to achieve the impact, solve the business problem, achieve the goal the project was designed. And that's at a higher level than project deliverables.
Yep, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Now, which show explores the question of what it takes to succeed? When you hear the word or the term project success, what comes to mind?
Well, project success is solving the business problem that the project was designed to, not providing deliverables. And I think that somewhere we have a visual of the logical framework. Maybe you can pull that up.
Yep, definitely.
Okay, the logical framework visually is a 4x4 matrix with some certain information that is in each of the boxes, and a change in one of the boxes will change the information in another box. So it's kind of like one of those Sudoku puzzles, and solving it is really almost it's almost like developing a game and coming up with the right solutions. Let's walk through this. The first column, it says objectives. And there are 4 types of objectives, which is important to distinguish. The goal is a big picture long-term benefit, and that's at the top. And now we'll go to the bottom. The inputs, those are activities and budgets and schedules. And some of the activities that you and I had in putting this webinar together included making sure the technology worked, getting the right schedule, et cetera, et cetera. And if we could do all those tasks, then we could provide an outcome. And the outcome is a quality recording that you can share with your viewers. But there's a purpose to that. So we say if outcomes and purpose. If purpose is they learn something, and goal is they apply it to get better projects. So there's a hierarchy. If inputs, then outcomes. If outcomes, and purpose. If purpose, and goal. And typical project management just looks at the lower two levels, doesn't give a lot of thought to the top levels. So we have objectives in the first column. We have success measures and verifications in the middle. This encourages us to describe using metrics and indicators of quality, quantity, and time, what success looks like at each of those levels. The far column, labeled assumptions, enable us to identify risk factors that connect the various levels. Here's where Murphy and his infamous law lie. And often a project will fail because we didn't get all the assumptions, the implicit assumptions that rattle around in our head. We didn't get them on the table where they could be examined, where they could be mitigated, where we could eliminate a lot of the failure factors in advance. So there's 4 levels, there's 4 rows, and it's not a form to fill out. It's an interactive thinking tool that's populated by 4 strategic questions, which we'll get into at some point.
Yep, and I love the simplicity. And if anybody can see right now, I have the logical framework plaque right at the back. So it's like think, plan, act to get results.
Absolutely.
And all the questions there, so thank you. Alrighty. Now, when you hear the word life success, who or what comes to mind?
Well, I think life success is a combination of contributing to your community, raising a good family, contributing to your work, and also feeling that you have a mission in life. And project managers are lucky in that regard because we are the people who make things happen. Consider the electronic miracle you're watching this webinar on. It is the function of smart people doing a project. Look at the city skyline. Everything you see there is because of projects. All change, all innovation, all advances forward are the result of projects. And as the world becomes more complex, we need better ways to organize those projects because complex, shorter time frames, multiple factors, the need to move faster, those require us to step up our game and think bigger, plan smarter, act faster in order to get results. So that's what my career is all about.
No, that's very, very great insight. Now, you say, like in your book, that every project has 4 levels of objectives. Can you explain what they are?
Yeah, we looked at those 4 levels, and why don't we go to the 3rd slide now? Because I've developed 4 strategic questions that help us to understand how to organize. So the first question that's critical to ask is, what are we trying to accomplish and why? With an emphasis on the why. I find that most project managers, especially if they have a technology background, prematurely rush to trying to solve the problem before they understand the interconnections among the various elements. So by asking, what are we trying to accomplish and why? Well, in the case of Field of Dreams, we're trying to build a baseball field so that they will come, those being the formerly great baseball players of the past, so that we can save the farm. So this creates an if-then relationship with a form if-then. If we build it, they will come. If they come, we can save the farm. So that begins to set up the structural foundation or the project backbone. Then we can go to question number 2. How will we measure success? Let's define in advance what success looks like, because an objective is not clear until we add the measures. So we add quantity, quality, time measures to the indicators. We also decide, how are we going to verify? How are we going to track and make sure that we're on track? And measurement can be very difficult or it can be very easy, but we have to figure out what's the most cost-effective way to measure. And then the third question is, what other conditions must exist? What outside factors influence us that we have to turn into assumptions and then test those assumptions to eliminate the killers? Then you can go to question number 4. And here's the sweet spot for project managers, because you can crank up Primavera or Microsoft Project or your own enterprise system and lay out the tasks, the budgets, and the schedules. But unless you go through those other steps first, you're not going to have the best project solution.
And I like the simplicity of that, and I like it the way Einstein described it, KISS methodology, keep it simple, stupid. Well, not stupid, but in this case it will be keep it simple, smarty.
Okay, everything is, or as I prefer, keep it simple, Schmidt.
There you go.
Last week I was teaching at the UCLA Technical Management Program. It's a program that brings about 150 people from the working world, from technology organizations, back for a week of retooling. And what they liked is the elegant simplicity of the approach, because it scales very, very nicely to handle projects of all sizes and all types, and it enables project managers to be more strategic. And I think the growth path for a lot of project managers is to go upstream, to be involved in the decisions in the project design, to be involved in decisions about what projects should be undertaken. And for that, we need better tools. And I suggest that the logical framework is one of those tools.
No, I totally agree. Now, how might a PMO use the logical framework?
PMOs often use a logical framework at each phase or each gate to require the project team to think through what they're going to do in the next phase. Generally, the goal does not change. The purpose changes, the set of outcomes. But by being clear about what they're going to deliver in the next phase, it requires them to think it through, and it enables the PMO to be effective in supporting the project team. So I have a lot of PMOs in large organizations and smaller organizations use this as part of their process. It's also a great communication tool, because you can capture the essence of a complex project on one page. And that's good for senior executives. They don't really care about the tasks. What they care about is the impact. And impact occurs at the purpose and goal levels, not the outcomes and the inputs. You know, you're involved in transformation. Transformation means something going to be different than before you undertook the project. So the logical framework structure forces us to think through the transformation, all the connections with other parts of the system, and to make sure that we can connect the dots in an organized and efficient fashion.
Yep, and I'm not only a project manager, but I also have like different methodologies and practices from different areas. And I even jokingly joke sometimes that I would even bring a kitchen sink if it will help me. So right now, the logical framework will be on the top of my list to solve any problems.
Well, that's why they say you're such a smart man, Igor. And I know you're reaching millions of people with your wisdom, and I really want to commend you, because project managers need to be continually growing and learning. I think the most important competitive edge we have is to learn, because you want to be moving faster than the speed of change. If not, you're going to get left behind. I think the goal, career-wise, for all of us is to develop a transferable skill set that can't be automated, robotized, or outsourced. And the logical framework is certainly one of those, because it requires you to think. It enables you to design complex projects, working with people of very different functional backgrounds, because it provides a precise language and a solution discovery tool that is absent from all the other methods, at least that I have seen.
Yeah, that's true. Now, in your book, you specified the importance of clearly defined objectives. Can you offer some tips on that?
Absolutely. The language form of objectives, it begins with a well-chosen verb. Are you going to improve? Are you going to develop? Are you going to enhance? Are you going to recreate? Are you going to reinvent? Are you going to what? What are you going to do? In my book, I have a list of 91 project management verbs. I'm happy to share with anyone who hits the link that you're going to provide at the end. But the other thing is, you don't know how a project objective, what that really means, until you've identified how you're going to measure it. What does it mean, for example, to improve teamwork? We throw that term around a lot, but there's no good measures of it, and without measures, it becomes vague. For example, people collaborate on difficult topics. People share information. People support each other. People resolve conflicts in a democratic and peaceful manner as opposed to holding grudges. If you have any objective that is other than a very straightforward mechanical objective, identify the measures that will indicate that objective has been achieved. Therefore, you get everyone on the same page.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree. Now, Terry, in the book also you mentioned that chess forces you to carefully examine the future implication or current moves and to explore what-if scenarios before its decision for the vital in the project. How else did this thinking help you in your project management career?
It enabled me to go into domains where I had very, very little background in healthcare or education or national defense or IT, and with a very simple set of questions add considerable value. Because in most projects you require different disciplines, and each discipline speaks its own language. IT managers have a different language than HR managers. Engineers speak different than manufacturing managers. We have to have a common language. Let me go back. One of the first projects I ever was involved in was in Bangladesh. I was sent to Bangladesh to develop a planning capability for the Planning Commission. And they were responsible for designing projects that would impact the rural poor, improve the quality of life. So I spent 6 weeks teaching the logical framework, designing projects, and at the end, my counterpart said, Terry, your system enables everyone from the Minister of Agriculture to the farmer in the field to understand the project and their role. And it was surprising when I moved to high technology, very complex projects in big, well-known organizations, to see that the problems were basically the same, despite the different contexts. How do we organize around objectives? How do we get clear about objectives? How do we recognize the linkages between what our project is doing and other factors that influence it? How do we build a strong, unified team that's coherent, organized, and effective? And the logical framework, really, because it's so simple and because of the underlying concept, works in virtually any context.
No, it's probably great to hear that your logical framework had such an impact in everyday life and different industries. So.
You mentioned something. Life consists of a series of projects in various program areas. You have a family program, you have work program, you have spiritual, community, recreational, health, et cetera, and in those are projects. In my workshops, some of the people often will pick a personal project to develop. I had one person here in King County in Seattle. She wanted to become the top ultramarathoner in the county. She used a logical framework to do that. I had another who was a Boy Scout leader. He wanted to plan the ultimate Boy Scout adventure for the summer. They did it. So it applies, the basic concepts apply to life as well. Because when you think about it, the most important projects we have are life projects. And I know that you're interested in developing the whole person, what it takes to succeed. And I think what it takes to succeed is a little bit of passion, the ability to achieve goals, and knowing what those goals are.
Oh, and perfect. And that's why I like this book. It's not only for project managers, but you can utilize it in everyday life. Now, at the end of your book, you ended with the most important part of every project, which is people who are actually on it, people who actually do the work. Now, the question would be, how should one, act towards a fellow person on the project?
Well, I think, first of all, recognize each person has dignity and need to be treated with respect. They all have a skill set that's valuable on a project. I think the project manager needs to identify how best to bring out those skills and to recognize the WIIFM, what's in it for me, of every project person, and to reward them appropriately. Some people are motivated by recognition, others by doing a great job, others by learning something new, others by exposure to other parts of the company, others by the sense of teamwork. So figure out what it is that really inspires and motivates a person, because a project manager does not always, or usually doesn't, have full control over the people involved in the project. So you need to have emotional intelligence and to understand human behavior and motivation in addition to understanding how to crash a critical path.
Yeah, no, that's some great insights. Thank you. Now, other than your strategic project management made simple book, is there another book that you had a big impact on you that you recommend to my audience?
There's a great book out. It's actually the #1 best-selling international book on project managers outside of the study guides, and that's called Fast Forward MBA to Project Management. It's by Eric Verzuh, V-E-R-Z-U-H. And I believe you're going to have a session with him at some point, so I'd encourage people to look out for that. The Fast Forward MBA in Project Management. That's the exact title.
I'm looking forward to the interview with Eric. Your publisher is John Wiley & Son, which is a leader in publishing business books and project management books. How did you choose your publisher?
Well, I'm delighted that John Wiley recognized the value of this book in providing a unique perspective for project managers. So they actually approached me. I did have to submit a proposal, but they loved it. They thought there was a good niche for it, and it's actually available worldwide. It's been a bestseller for them, and it's really helped a lot of project managers worldwide to be more effective. If anyone out there is considering writing a book, I do have a few tips.
Very nice, very nice. I'm sure you have a lot of insight, and Wiley made a very good choice in selecting your book.
Okay.
Now, where did you develop your writing style? Did your editor suggest it, or you always wrote this way?
Well, in high school and grade school, I was really too small and frail to play football and too shy to date girls, so I focused on learning to play chess and to write. So I've kept a journal ever since high school. I was editor of the newspaper at the Harvard Business School, and I've written 14 books, 7 of which actually got published. So I've had a few that didn't make it as well. The advice I would give to anyone who wants to write, and I think there's a great opportunity to differentiate your career by coming out with a book, is #1, have a unique idea or have a new twist on an old idea. Second of all, just develop the 10 key points. Those could be the 10 chapters, and then write the 5 or 6 ideas or examples you want under each of those points, and then start writing. Now, if you are ambitious and willing to put in the work, you can aim for a New York publisher that is a top quality publisher. It takes a little bit more work because the standards are higher. The other thing you could do is self-publish. Amazon makes it easy. Their CreateSpace system makes it easy for anyone to become a published author. So that's a good way to get your message out, to distinguish your career, to have a little bit more visibility in the workplace. So #1, have a good idea. #2, get a pen and paper or put it on computer. And the most important thing is what I call BIC, butt in chair. Sit down and actually do the work. That's the toughest part.
I hope everybody is listening and who aspiring author will take that knowledge to hand. Thank you. Now, if you can leave one message to everyone tuning in, what would that be?
I think the message I would leave as a project manager or an aspiring project manager is to develop a unique skill set that most project managers don't have. You could be, for example, great at building teams, great at giving feedback. You could learn the latest emerging technologies. You could learn to be more strategic. For me and for a lot of my clients, learning the logical framework has been a career differentiator because they can go into situations and add real value simply by asking those 4 questions. In fact, if you take nothing away from this session other than those 4 questions, the most important one to ask is, what are we trying to accomplish and why? Because it is so easy to get caught in the weeds of the activities and tasks and forget the bigger picture. I have had project managers show me a 60-page book of line item tasks, and they'll say, this is all the things we're doing. No one has any idea in hell what we're trying to accomplish.
There you go. The major one is like why.
Yeah.
Now, Is there anything else you wanted to add that we didn't cover?
I think we covered the most of it. I want to remind people that as project managers, they probably have the most versatile mobile set of skills. If you learn to think outside the bar chart, think holistically, think about the other connections and the other parts of the larger system and how they have to work for your project to be successful. Keep learning, keep growing. It's a competitive world. It's becoming more so, but project managers are the ones who make the difference. So be proud, make a difference, go out, use these tools.
Nope, I totally agree, and I'm definitely using it in my projects now.
Good.
Now, where should people go to learn more about you, or if somebody wants to get in touch with you, how would they get in contact?
Well, my website, managementpro.com, has a lot of great materials. I'm also putting together some special materials for this group here. If you go to the link below, bit.ly/Terry, capital Terry, dash capital WITS. You'll get an article, you'll get a video showing this process in use. If you want to write me for any questions, I'm happy to respond because my passion is making good project managers better. My email is terry@managementpro.com. I'd love to hear from you, and I wish you the very best in your career journey.
Yeah, thank you. Now, Terry, do you have any parting words?
I guess my parting words would be, take these ideas, go out, do something with them, make the world a little bit better. Be kind to yourself. If something doesn't work out, don't dump all over yourself, but recognize it as a lesson in the continuing journey forward. So I like to tell people to think big, plan smart, act fast, and get outstanding results because our world needs great project managers.
Yep, I totally agree. We need more great project managers. Well, thank you, Terry, for being my guest. Thank you for writing such a wonderful book and making the strategic project management simpler. And I hope you join me again at WITS, What It Takes to Succeed. And to the audience, please subscribe to WITS Show, like, share the link, comment on what would you like to hear more or learn more. That's why I can continue to bring you leaders and experts such as Terry, who provided such a wonderful insight in hopefully helping to succeed. Thank you. Have WITS to succeed, and until next time.